There you are. Welcome, Diana.
Hi, Carrie.
Welcome to In Production.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, where are you talking to us from, and what is that noise? You hear something? Is it your? No. It was like thumping or something. Okay, so tell me where you're talking to us from, and let me introduce you. Diana Zogaric is in San Francisco. So Diana, tell us how things are in San Francisco, and what is your living situation like, and how are things out there during this time?
Right. Well, as Carrie said, I live in San Francisco, and we're kind of lucky in California. You've probably seen the news. The governor and the mayor of San Francisco in particular are taking the whole situation very seriously. So it is super scary and surreal, but I also feel pretty safe here. Of course, our lives and our work and that are impacted just like everybody else is. I feel kind of lucky because I don't have small kids that I have to homeschool. I keep seeing, jokes and memes and comments about that. My kids are a little older, so I am able to focus on work. And the main focus of that has been trying to figure out a way to switch from, live events, which I do a lot of, to virtual. So the clients are figuring out that, like how to switch to virtual events, and then, how I can play a role in that. So they are going to be getting their content out. They're just going to end up doing it in a different way. And there is a lag while everybody switches over. But I do feel like, we are going to be able to figure that out at some point. Mm-hmm. And then for me, I've always done a good portion of my work from home. So I do have the tools and everything necessary, the equipment to work from home. So at least I have that going on.
But so what is it like, just like where your house is as far as shopping and availability of goods and all of those kind of things? How much is that? I mean, obviously it's changed a lot, but I know that I think certain areas, because the population density is such that, what kind of issues are you running into?
When I try to exercise or take my dog out, or I even go walking with friends, 6 feet apart, we just try to do it really early in the morning because everybody wants to do that. Yeah. Especially right now, the weather's kind of nice. I try to avoid Safeway or Target or any of the bigger stores. There's a really nice butcher shop on my street and a really nice fruit market that's Middle Eastern style, and they have pastas and things like that. So I can get almost everything I want at those two stores and avoid the bigger stores.
Right.
It's getting better. They have toilet paper now and, that kind of thing, and a lot of takeout restaurants.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's important to support smaller businesses. It's another reason I go to the butcher shop and the fruit market, because I feel like they really need us now.
So, what is kind of the feeling in California when things are going to open up again? I mean, I guess, I waited for a while to, I've been thinking about talking to people and doing interviews since the very beginning, but I was so unsure of what I should be doing and how I should be reacting, because things are so bad in Detroit that, it's hard to know what to do when you're in a position like we are in production. It's just like our skill set isn't something that's super valuable right now. Yeah. But we're trying to come up with what are we supposed to do with our kids? So I guess, what was my question to that? I don't know.
What is it like here as far as things are opening up?
Yeah. Well, and in California in general, because I think that they've talked about getting their own supplies and not listening to what's going on in Washington. And I guess, so when do you think things are going to open up? When are people going to go back to, to work, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's tough here because the numbers are good here. Like, we've had 20 deaths in San Francisco, which, is pretty amazing as far as the numbers are concerned. But the danger is we open up and then people come in from outside. And so, not to be political, but, I'm trying to say it in the most, non-political.
Yeah, I understand.
So that is a concern. But I do think that, I think I've been listening a lot to Cuomo and that, and I just feel like when that infection rate is low, we'll probably follow it. And I see that they're going to roll things out slowly. Like, they talk about opening retails and having drive-through services for that. And even they were talking about opening personal care, like hair salons and things, which I think is odd, but I
Yeah.
think probably I'm hoping for mid-May, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in Michigan here, I think that a lot of businesses have been upset. Like all of the marinas are closed, and just because there's so much seasonal business that's around boating and outdoor life, that I think that's probably going to be the next thing that opens up. But still doing it a safe distance. So hopefully that will happen by May.
And your rules in Michigan are way stricter than ours. I can go buy paint to paint my living room if I want to. My son and I are building a deck in our backyard right now because we were able to get the supplies. And if I forget screws, I can go back to Home Depot and got them. I just go online and do curbside pickup. So I don't agree with the protest, but I can see where the strictness of Michigan is probably pretty hard to understand.
Yeah. Well, I'm just staying home anyway, so I guess I'm not. And there are places where you can get things like delivered or pick them up. So, anyway, So your work, you've still been able to work, I guess, which is good because you are doing more from home. So what were you doing right before we had to do the stay home, stay safe? What kind of work were you doing?
I do a lot of live events for Salesforce, so I'm the editor on site, and what they'll do is they'll record it. It's like they'll go live, but then they'll also record it for upload to internet, so it has to be super quick turnaround, correct any mistakes and that. So I do, Dreamforce and a lot of things for Salesforce, and then other clients too. Like I've done a few live events for Facebook and things like that. So I kind of have my toe in Salesforce in a few different ways. So in some departments hire me as a company, and I produce and I edit their videos out. And so we had a few shoots coming up that we had to cancel. Another thing I was doing that got canceled was I was populating the screens at Toyota's research institute where they're working on autonomous vehicles and that. It sounded like they have screens in their elevators and around the building, and they like to change the slideshow about once a week. So I was doing that. It was a small job, but obviously there's nobody in the building anymore. So that changed.
Oh, sure. Right. Mm-hmm.
So, but then Salesforce is being super mindful about the content that they're putting out because they don't want to seem insensitive to the situation. So that's been changing weekly, whereas I was still putting out content for a little while. Then they said it had to only be COVID-19 related. So we were doing videos about the best way to stay home and work, or a video about, how to keep active in the pro bono environment while being home. So things like that. And then that halted, but it's all going to start coming back because all those live events, there's a little bit of a lag, but they're figuring out how to make them virtual. So they will be virtual in the next coming weeks. It's just to take a little time for them to pick up.
Okay. So what kind of setup are you working with at home? Like what kind of studio have you built for yourself?
I just have a Adobe Creative Cloud situation. So I have, that whole software suite.
How many hard drives do you have, Diana? That's what I want to know. How many terabytes of hard drives?
I have a few of yours. No, I have a cabinet full of hard drives. I try to keep them organized. I used to have big speakers when I worked more on movie trailers, but I kind of actively don't have those anymore because I want to hear what the the viewer is going to hear. And the majority of videos are watched.
They're not listening to surround sound on their phone.
No, it turns out they're not. So I want to actually use my computer audio so that I can hear what the viewer's hearing. So I don't really do that anymore.
Right. So tell me, how did you end up in San Francisco from graduating from Michigan State? How did you end up there?
Well, when I was graduating from Michigan State, I wanted to be a director, just like everybody else in the filmmaking.
I don't think I knew that. But go ahead.
I directed little things with Phil Vincent and Glenn McDonald and stuff. But the editing equipment at Michigan State was really pretty accessible. So I really got better and better at that. And it was pretty specialized. So you really needed to know how to use it. And so people would come to me and I would help them in that. So when I graduated, I really felt like that was my most marketable skill.
So was that digital beta or not 3/4?
Yeah, it was 3/4. It was really big deal. Yeah, like a,
non-linear people, non-linear, right?
Non-linear, it was tape to tape switching.
Yeah.
And so that was but then right after I graduated, that's when Avid was introduced in nonlinear editing search. So I got lucky enough to learn that early.
This is the early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I got lucky enough to learn Avid early on at University of Michigan because I had a job there. So I felt like the nonlinear editing really helped me with my career because no one else knew it, quite frankly. And then a lot of my friends from Michigan State were moving out to Los Angeles and working for Craig Murray, who's a Michigan State alumni,
right.
big trailer company in LA. So they got me a job editing movie trailers in my mid-20s. So I went and did that. And
so how long did you spend in Michigan before you made the move to LA?
Maybe 3 years.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then there were so many of us in the industry that they called us the Michigan Mafia in trailers because we just kept getting each other jobs over and over. So I did that for a while, and then my ex-husband actually brought us to San Francisco. So, but it was really fun to work in Hollywood, and it was exciting. And you know, taking a movie and turning it into 2.5 minutes. It was really high profile. It was fast paced. And then just getting to see it in a theater when it was done was a super exciting start to a career.
You know what? I think this is a good time to take a look at your reel. So why don't we, I'm going to take a look here. Let's see if I can figure this out. There it is. Allow. Okay, so we're small, and now this is your reel over here. Now I don't have it set up for audio, but maybe you can just kind of talk us through what we're looking at. Can you hear it or not? Ooh. Can you hear it?
No.
No. Okay.
So I
don't have it set up. I'm not using Chrome, so I'm on something else that's not showing that.
This is a collection of
how many years of stuff do you have in here?
You know, I did most of this is San Francisco.
Oh, I love that. I love that, by the way, that where it went from the guy who was that big giant wide shot to that close up. That was my favorite part. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
So there's some movie trailers in here. I do once in a while. Some of them are old, like these ones. But then some of them, I was still doing movie trailers up here. I haven't done very many lately, but you know, smaller, more independent films that they can send up to San Francisco that they weren't able. They're not under super high lock and key, so that's kind of fun to do. So, but you know, the majority of what was in there, I think, is San Francisco based.
I'm gonna escape if there's some having problems with there's the streaming of it, so I'm gonna escape out of that.
Corella DeVille will always be in my edit reel, though.
Corella DeVille?
Yeah, because I did the 101 Dalmatians trailer.
And how many times when you would cut a trailer, how many times do you actually cut the trailer?
Oh gosh.
I don't think people have any idea. So like they come to you and they give you the whole movie footage, or take us through that process. How does that work?
It depends on the movie. Like something animated, you know, they get piecemeal. So we get an early iteration of the movie. If it's a huge profile movie, like, you know, 101 Dalmatians, you might get it 9 to 10 months in advance, even a year. So, you know, they're still editing the movie. Sometimes they're even still shooting the movie. So when we get accused of putting things in the trailer that aren't in the movie, it's because they're still editing the movie and things get pulled out, you know, as time goes on. So we get the movie. The trailer industry is very interesting in that, at least it was when I was down there, and I think so. If they have writers, there's a writer who literally writes all day long, you know, in a world where one man, and there's editor, there's a producer, and there's even a person who just pulls music for you.
Yeah, so it's kind of specialized.
It's kind of, yeah. So, which would lead me later to talk about the transition into doing other things, because you're really, really specialized as an editor in trailers. You usually get a first stab at it, though. They leave you alone for a few days. You cut a trailer, and then, you know, you have producers coming in and, you know, changing things, and, you know, it's very collaborative at that point. And then when it goes to the client, then it becomes even more collaborative. And then at some point, I don't know what they do now because I haven't been down there in a while, but they would literally test it. They would literally go to a mall in Iowa and pull people out and say, please watch this and tell us what you think.
Yeah.
And so things that you thought were funny might not have been funny, you know, things that you know, so that was sort of the process. So those changes, those revisions could be up to 50 at times.
Right. Huh. So I'm gonna just interrupt you now, because I think that was so we knew each other at Michigan State, and I think that actually it was Glenn McDonald's film that I was supposed to direct, and then we got in a big dramatic fight, and I ended up crying at Bill Vincent's house, sobbing over that project. And then you ended up directing it.
Oh, the Slap Happy Clown one?
Yes.
Yeah, I did direct it.
It's very dramatic. Very dramatic.
No, I didn't know that.
You didn't know?
Came to me one day and said, "I think you should direct this," and I said, "Me? I don't know if I can direct."
Who's that? Bill
Vincent.
Vincent, yeah. Well, I think that he knew that I was so disappointed that, because I had raised the money for them. There were 3 films that there were $1,000 each, and we were shooting on film. And I had found the money for that from ASMSU or ASL, whatever it was called, and helped Glenn secure the funds and really got behind his project. Anyway, and it was like my first, like investing. And anyway, so I'm happy that you did it. It wouldn't really been my.
Don't worry, I don't think we ever finished it. So.
No, I did. I'm sure that I saw it. I do. I remember it was in an attic. And what's his name? Steve Gibbons, because I had Steve play that other part, and he had a Hooters t-shirt, and I was like, I would have never put a guy in a Hooters t-shirt, but and then Glenn played the clown.
Yes.
I don't know where I saw it, but
we did have a screening, but it wasn't really done. Like
I don't know where I was.
We edited it on video, but we never went and finished it on film.
So then I don't think I talked to you or saw you until there was the Michigan Film Incentive, and then you and your husband were talking about coming back here to open a studio, or open a studio that would cut just film trailers.
Yeah, I was hoping for that.
You still want to come back to Michigan. I know. You will someday. And that didn't happen, because that would not have been, you would never have gotten the work that you got on the West Coast. And then the film incentive kind of went away. And then you would just come into town every summer, right? And I think that we had lunch a couple of times before I had anything going. And then I called you because I got a job working with Mayor Duggan and his team, and I needed an editor. And I asked 2 other people before you, and I was like, why are they? It was such like it was weird. And then you said yes, like automatically. And so I just have to say that also you said yes to today, and that is one of the reasons why you are always working and you've been successful. So that's my interpretation of.
Thanks. Well, I love that we work together, because I love having a toe into Michigan. I love that I know what's going on in Detroit after working with Mayor Duggan's campaign, and I'm really proud of that city. And having that foothold there has always been important to me.
Well, and I have to say that when I was working with you initially, my hesitation was that I had never really worked virtually like that, because I was used to going into a production facility and sitting with the editor and supervising the edit and being there for feedback and, all along the way. And it worked out. Obviously, it worked out really well, because we've continued to work together, but it also really liberated me from being liberated me in that I also, when you spend all your time in edit, that's like you're not doing other business development and you're not on other projects. And it's like my hourly rate went up, because I wasn't spending all the time at it. And it still worked really well for us. So I actually have the video that we did for the mayor, the award-winning video. So let me try the share screen on that again. And let's see, there we go, Duggan for Detroit, and we're gonna allow that. So let's see. I don't have the audio again, but we'll take a look. So, oops, what happened? I'm watching it here. Well, this is part of the fun, isn't it? Were you watching it? No.
No, it popped up on my Facebook page over here, but just a frozen shot of it. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Here we go. So we'll take a look at, this is what, so for this project, I know people can't really hear what we're watching here, but I think, oh, look, we have little titles there so people can read it.
But look how pretty that footage is. It's really nice.
How good it looks?
Yeah, the footage is really pretty.
Yeah. So we shot maybe 5 or 6 days over 2 months. And then this was the very last, because we did, 4 or 5 different 2-minute videos and all kinds of different recuts and many different versions of this. So it was kind of like a work in progress with his feedback all along. And we never knew from day to day, because they were managing what was going on politically to try and put out an ad that made sense. So this did end up winning a national award. So I do thank you for helping make that happen. Oh my God, I love that. I just think that ending is so great on the bench. They threw it out at one point. So anyway, yeah, so that was a good collaboration that we did that I enjoyed. So I don't know if anybody is watching us live or not, and that's fine if they're not, but it'll be good to have this whole record of our conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
To let people know. So I guess what is a typical day like or week like for you, and how do you find work now?
Well, I think that I don't really have typical days because while my title might be editor, I try to be very diverse. So I have people who think of me as a producer who didn't even know I edit. I even last year got a job as a content writer at Rodan & Fields, and they would come to me and say like, well, you're the expert. And I was like, where's the hidden camera? Like, I'm the expert of content writing for Rodan & Fields? How did
No, that's what is part of your magic. Like, you just say yes, and you're like, yes, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, pretty much. So I remember first working for Craig Murray, and the producer said something like, I want you to slow this shot down. And I said, sure, no problem. And then I whatever, like, however we talked back then on the phones in the office, like to Scotty Grayson, I was like, how do you slow a shot down? So it is. It's important to be able to wear different hats, I think, especially what I've learned, and I didn't even do this on purpose, but with editing, because, my daughter can edit now. When we first edited, it was a very specialized skill, and the equipment was $120,000. You couldn't have it at home. So I feel like I got lucky in a little bit of a way because I was a trailer editor. And then I went from, I was a trailer editor, I'm a game editor. I went from being an editor to a producer to a creative director, back to being an editor when I had kids so that I could have some flexibility with my time. I did game trailers a little bit in LA just because, again, it was more flexible. And that, when I came up to the Bay Area, made me a little bit more saleable than, as I was saying before, about how a trailer editor is really, really specialized. I had a little bit more diversity on my reel, and I think that really helped. So as far as a typical day, I mean, it's a lot of client management and a lot of figuring out what a client wants with their video. And one thing I really, really learned when I switched to corporate and tech was how important being on brand is. So sort of always interpreting their needs and figuring out how to do that creatively and on brand. And then back to the trailer editing part of it, I just really think it's important to make every story might not be as fast paced as a trailer, but equally compelling, equally creative. I feel like a viewer deserves that, whether it's B2B or an internal video where the CEO is just sending a message to their employees, whatever it is.
Right. And I think because you've been doing it for so long, I've started to edit myself because I'm making these little videos at home, but to do a 2-minute piece, like you just like look at that footage and you're like, it's just you can do it so quickly. Things that take me, it would take me forever, and that's why we work with professionals. So in all of that work, like you just develop an eye, and so like anything else, it just becomes easier the more that you do it. And I certainly, to do these interviews, like for me to be on camera, like I've spent my whole career behind the camera asking questions and not having to like be in front of the camera all the time, and then to do everything else. So it has gotten easier, fortunately. And
I think there are specific tools that help, like Trent really help being able to get, if anyone doesn't know what that is, it transcribes a video, so it helps me be fast. And there's definitely, sometimes I get a little bit down because, like I said, like, oh, my kid can do this now. But really the pacing and the storytelling are something that you really can't just pick up. Looking at a 45-minute interview and picking out the best 1 to 2 minute bits and knowing that you can cut the beginning of the sentence to the end of that sentence and make it work is just something that really, that really just takes experience.
Right. Yes, it does. I just put up a link to Trent so that people know.
Yeah.
People know what that is. So what advice do you have for, I guess, for people if they're going to be on camera or if they're starting to edit their own pieces, like what are your maybe 1 or 2 key bits of advice that people who are just doing DIY or what would you tell them?
One thing is a little bit of a cheat. Look at other videos because, sometimes you can get a better idea of storytelling and pacing and that from there.
Yeah.
I think that this isn't really an editing advice, but this is more of a shooting thing. I think that, well, no, it's an editing advice too. You really just always want your subject to look and sound as the best that they can. So if they're stumbling, if they're going, cut it out. It's so easy to cut it out. You probably need to cover it with B-roll or whatever, but make your subject look and sound amazing. You want people to look smart and sound smart. So if you can brighten their face with a little bit of coloring or whatever, I really just think that that's really important.
Yeah.
I mean, in a technical sense, paying attention to mix is important because people are watching and listening on their computers. So if the music's too hot or too low, you really just need to know that. And then
so mix for people that don't know, that's the audio mix, right?
The balance between the voice and the music or whatever. What's more important? The voice is more important. So just be sure of that. I think right now, so much of what I do and so much of what most video producers do is social media based. So being sure that you can capture somebody within the first 5 seconds or so is important too. Those
were like 10 tips, Diana.
Right. And they probably
I'm going to steal them all. I'm going to turn them into my own video tips. So Diana's editing tips. So what do you think is going to be next? What's going to happen? What do you have on the horizon?
For me, I think that, I don't know. I really do like working with corporations in the Bay Area now. I think that it's, as much as I really loved and enjoyed the glamour and excitement of Hollywood and all that, it's sort of behind me now. Like I really like being someplace like Salesforce and telling their story and, just it's calmer and their content is still exciting and interesting in that. There's a lot of potential for travel. Like they have offices, them and lots of other companies. I'm just using them as an example.
Sure.
Offices all over. Setting up interviews and that is really fun. I think all these years of editing make me, and Carrie knows this, know what I want to come to me in the sense of footage.
Yeah.
So as I get involved in different departments at different companies, I say, can I be on set next time while you're shooting this? So I can be sure that the questions are answered in a more concise manner and that the framing is good and that, but Carrie has good production people in Michigan, so she's cool, but some of them are not. And so I can see more overseeing the whole process.
Well, there's so many people doing so much, like content is everywhere in every company that you want to that you want to participate in. So it's kind of like find what interests you, whether it's automotive or computer tech or I don't know, healthcare, and then you could make videos for that. Because I mean, that's certainly every company wants to be making videos. Everybody wants to be doing it.
Right, and then you got to realize too, nowadays the content is super fleeting. So you have to toe this line between making an amazing video and making a video that people are probably going to watch for like a week and then again. So recently I was on, sometimes I get these live events and I don't really know where I'm going or what I'm doing because I'm busy with the kids or whatever. So it was a rush and I get on the Muni and I look like, I wonder what I'm shooting today. And I look at it's an autonomous vehicle announce. So this company is like announcing their autonomous vehicle and like revealing it, like quite literally taking the blanket off of it.
Right.
And the company is called, what are they called? They're here. See, now that I know, I see them every day, Cruise. And they're in collaboration with GM, or I think they're a division of GM. And my brother's, he is an engineer at GM, and he works on batteries and autonomous cars and stuff. So I'm like, Bob, do you know about this? And he's like, well, yes, I do. And it turned out that the video that I edited that night, like on site as they were shooting, ended up on GM's homepage the next day as, you know, at GM's website for all their employees to see in that. So my brother's like, hey, your video is on here. So sometimes you get to
never know.
Yeah, and that was super exciting.
Right.
As exciting as editing a movie trailer to me now at this point in my life. So I was like, oh my God, I got to be part of this super cool thing, you know. So different things can excite you in different ways, I guess, is the lesson.
Yeah.
There.
Well, I think that, I don't know, I really, you know, I wanted to direct as well. And I guess I have been directing and producing, but I thought I was going to be making movies. And I guess I really haven't had that desire for a long time. Although I will say that recently I'm like, I think I finally have something to say. And, you know, when you're like in charge of creating people and managing the lives of your little people, it just kind of takes over for, you know, that take precedence. And, you know, making movies is just like making a movie. So
Yeah.
it's not like, I guess it doesn't mean what it used to. And certainly the hours on set involved and everything, unless you're so driven by the story and really have something to say, it just doesn't feel like it's just not worth it. When there's like, you know, the 2-minute stories can be really good too.
Yeah, it can be tedious in my opinion. Yeah, right.
So I know you always come back to Michigan in the summer. So what do you think is going to happen this year?
I don't know. I haven't bought any plane tickets or anything. So I don't know. I also have a kid. I mean, on a personal level, I have a junior. She's going to be a senior next year. Normally that summer spent is, you know, doing some sort of a
college tours.
Well, that and just like doing things that up her college resume. So she was going to go to Puerto Rico and do a service project and get a job, and you take summer classes, all these things that would look good on her resume. So already that was going to affect our Michigan visit because she had all these like things that she felt like she needed to do. But the good thing about what I do is I can work from anywhere. So I have been lucky enough to be able to spend summers in Michigan, and sometimes my clients don't even know I'm there. So you know,
and some of your clients like it when you're here.
Yes. So that's really fun. So being able to be remote has really helped me in the past. And every year I think, is it going to last, or am I going to get some sort of a staff job? And I still haven't gotten a staff job. So I'm still making it work.
Well, great. Any final thoughts today? It was so good to see you and to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. This has been really fun. No, I mean, if you're talking about, you know, advice for other people, I would just say it's easy to get wrapped up in these positions where they want you to be a jack of all trades. And it seems like, ironically, the jack of all trades jobs don't pay very well. So, you know, I had one friend one time say to me, she had a company, and I was like, oh, you know that I do that. She goes, oh, you don't want to work for me. I've got a bunch of, you know, 20-somethings in skinny jeans riding skateboards.
Well, they're just figuring it out, right? I guess they're still figuring it out, and they're
So, you know, try to have I mean, for one thing, always just look at what job you're applying for or what client you're talking to, and, you know, sort of change, you know, adapt accordingly, but also really just have a skill. Like jack of all trades only gets you so far, you know, and so my main skill is editing. I can do other stuff, but if it comes down to it, I'm going to hire a DP. If you want me to shoot stuff yourself, I'm not your person, you know. So there's probably somebody who can do it better. Same with motion graphics. I can do them, and I do them when I, you know, don't have a budget or whatever. But I'd so much rather pass that off to my motion graphics guy who does an amazing job.
Who else do you think I should talk to?
Dave Singh?
Oh, maybe, yeah. Dave and I don't know if I ever worked with him. I guess I could go back to the show. He did the show, right?
Yeah, Jeff Litsky.
Yes, Jeff Litsky's on my list. What's that?
Yeah, Stephen Warmer.
Yeah, Steve. Mm-hmm.
And then maybe someone who's not in Hollywood. Greg Harrison's wife just got a movie deal from her book.
Really? What kind of book did she write?
It was Janelle Brown. I didn't read the book that I read her other book. I didn't read the book that's being made into a movie, but I think Nicole Kidman's in it.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Was she in the business? His wife?
She's always been a writer.
Oh, okay.
She's a novel. She writes novels.
All right. Well, see, that's another way into the business that, you don't really think about, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I am trying to get different parts of the country. So tomorrow I'm going to talk to somebody from New York, and I've got someone from LA on Friday in Chicago. What's that?
Glenn lives in the Carolinas, I think.
Oh yeah, but he doesn't really make a living he's a journalist, isn't he?
No,
yeah, he's a journalist. So not that that's not important, because it is.
Yeah.
All right, Diana, I'm going to say goodbye and end our broadcast. So whoever watched us, thank you.
Thank you.
And we can stay on for one. I think I can turn the broadcast off, and then I'll say hello.
Okay.
Thanks so much for participating, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.